Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Modcast podcast. You might be wondering, wow, where the hell is Adam? Unfortunately, Adam has decided to leave us and go on vacation again. He is a globe-trotting individual indeed. So I am instead happy to have our editor, Justin, with us. Uh, and that'll be great too. Justin also watched the show, and we'll be talking about that for the rest of the episode, which is a lot to get through.
Yep.
So yeah, how you doing?
Doing good. We got 4 hours of content here to cover, top to bottom, and there was a lot this week, as there have always has always been.
Yes, I'm very glad that the 4 hour experiment is, or maybe it's not an experiment, I don't know, but the 4 hour idea is like coming to an end. Uh, and instead we'll get a 2.5 hour show next week with Arena Mexico. But I do not wish to delay it any further. Let's immediately jump right in. So we started the show unbelievably with Swerve versus. Now I figured this would be, this would be the end of Dynamite, right? This would be the end of the show for Dynamite section. But Swerve versus Will Ospreay, number two, started off the show. I mean, incredible stuff. So I was actually on the go as I was watching this. Thankfully, I had the HBO app, but I was on the go and was able to watch this while I was like ordering food or whatever. So Kim and I had something to eat while we were watching. I mean, just it was just the scene was like us ordering food while I'm being like, oh my god, like I'm like trying like to not yell and stuff because of how good this match was, and just publicly embarrass Kim, which I do usually try to do on purpose, but this time I'm trying to hold back. But yeah, it was an incredible match. I know some people are let down by the finish. I wasn't huge on the finish, which ended up being a time limit draw. I did want to see Ospreay win, especially since he lost the first match. But that said, I would like Ospreay to get that win eventually. But they did a post match angle, and it didn't end up really mattering because Ospreay's point got made regardless. Justin, what did you think about this match?
Yeah, I mean, I think it delivered on the things that you would expect it to, with Hangman or not Hangman, Swerve and Osprey being just two of the best. Like two, there was the old conversation of like the pillars in AEW, for the future. Well, Swerve and Osprey, I think, both came in and are now like the foundation of the current peak of AEW, and both these guys always deliver. Um, I totally, I understand the sentiment of not the time limit draws. Um, I think the discussion around time limit draws in AEW, and they probably use them more often than other places. But I feel like they're usually done appropriately. Like it's rare that you see like a time limit draw in AEW where it's not like two of the top guys fighting, and it's just it goes to the limit. And then maybe sometimes there's the angle of the face wants like 5 more minutes and the heel says no. That's the heel's job. Obviously, this seemed like it was about to be restarted by Swerve, but then they were interrupted by the post match
Right. I do want to talk
shenanigans.
about the
Right?
match itself before we get
Yeah.
into the post match. Um, Also want to note I'm not inherently against draws. I think Brian Danielson versus Kenny Omega at Grand Slam, one of the best matches of all time, right? And
Hmm.
that was a draw. I'm not inherently against draws. Here I did want to finish. So it did leave me a little bit like, oh,
Sure.
but like you said, the heel's job in this case for the Death Riders was to make that not happen so they could get some good heat. And people can feel their own way about that.
Yep.
One of my favorite spots in the match was when Osprey did a hidden blade tope suicida combo. That
Hmm.
was absolutely nuts. I think that was one of the moments where I gasped. Um, it was just an incredible match. When Swerve did the dead eye,
Yeah,
I also was just like, punching the air in excitement.
yeah. I think the story between these three is that they're mega manning off of each other, as they grow. Right? They're utilizing each other's moves. Obviously, uh, Ospreay and Hangman had a match at the last pay per view, and they're using the moves of their exes, if you will, and then yeah, just these everyone adapting each other's moves for the right time, the right place, and I think it's eventually leading to obviously this total like alliance of the faces of AEW right now against the opposition of the Death Riders,
Yeah,
and I think it's really showing the beginnings of that unity, even if in kayfabe, Swerve and Hangman are totally against being on the same side. They obviously, at least on some level, uh, respect each other in like their own ways.
for sure. Yeah, in their own very demented ways. Yeah, we'll talk more about that later once we get to the collision part.
Yep.
Couple other one last thing I want to highlight from this match before we move on to the post match angle. Is I guess at some point, I'm not sure if this is kayfabe or not. It was tough for me to tell on my phone. Excuse me. But it seemed like Ospreay broke his nose, or at least injured his nose, or something.
Yeah,
I don't know if that was kayfabe or real.
that happened early on, and it almost seemed to me, because I want to say I noticed it 5 minutes into the match. Like it was like lock
Right.
up.
It was pretty early. I remember that.
Yeah. So I almost think it might have been just a shoot nosebleed kind of
Yeah.
situation, more so than an impact. But obviously they sold it as a broken nose through commentary, and it's totally great. Obviously, I don't know if
Yeah.
it was broken. You can break your nose over something simple. It can always happen, right?
Right. Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
but
Sometimes I wake up and boom, my nose is broken. I don't even know how it happened. I'm like, what the hell, Adam? I know this was you somehow. But all right. So that's go watch the match. Incredible match. We have undersold this match, but it is just absolutely incredible. There's too many spots to really talk about. We could be here forever, and we've got a
I,
4-hour show
I
to
don't
look
know
at.
how you talk up this match, because nothing we can say could
Yeah.
possibly describe how well and the way these two people work together, right?
Yeah.
All
I
of these guys just work so well off of each other. It's indescribable.
Absolutely. All right. So after the match, Swerve and Ospreay, obviously, they are, as they say across the pond, knackered. And they basically, Swerve's like, nah, fuck that. We're not going to a draw. I want a sudden death. I'm like, hell yeah. Like, of course they're going to do that. Duh. And then the Death Riders come in and they're like, no, you're not going to do that. But what would really mattered here is that the Young Bucks came in. And I love Moxley's kind of facial reaction, like, hey, it's not me. No, I'm not doing it. You can't blame me. I'm just here. I'm just ringside, happen to be here. So love that stuff. Swerve gets handcuffed, which I immediately said kinky to because my brain is just a swamp. And I so they kicked Prince Nana off the apron. Poor Prince Nana. I knew he wasn't long for this world. And then basically they just kicked the shit out of the Bucks. I mean, kicked the shit out of Swerve with the Swerve's own sneaker from Anarchy in the Arena. I thought that was a really cool callback. Don't know how they got it. Would love to see a little BTE short where Matthew and Nicholas go into Swerve's house and steal it. But anyway, right as they're about to use the thumbtack shoes, Ospreay takes that bullet that he said he would take for Swerve. Really lets his actions speak, and the camera angle was done so well because you don't see Ospreay in the frame at all until like the last second where he jumps in, and they timed it so well too. It's just incredible, and even our EVPs are extremely violent people, Nicholas and Matthew Jackson looked a little like that's not really what we meant to do. Maybe we should get out of here. because I think Ospreay was spitting up blood at this point, or he was bleeding from his nose. I don't really remember. He was bleeding at some point, and so yeah, so they get out of there. Justin, what did you think of this awesome post match segment?
So yeah, I mean the Death Riders being an intimidation factor without being directly involved, that's always great. I think they're really killing the aura, or I shouldn't say it. That's not the right way to put it. They are really getting the aura that they need to have right now of being a danger around without even needing to be the danger directly. Just them being there was enough to put uh, Ospreay and Swerve at like a disadvantage for a number of reasons, but also just like fear. And then obviously when the Bucks came in, uh, you knew stuff was going to go down. It seems like it's leading to the match that some people anticipated early on, which is
Right.
going to be the Bucks and Ospreay versus Ospreay and Swerve, which that just sounds insane.
Yeah, and they still have another month to build up that match, so
Yes.
I'm really excited for that. At first, when people were like, "Oh yeah," the obvious direction at the time was Hangman and Swerve versus the Bucks. I'm like, I don't know
Sure.
how I feel about that. But Ospreay and Swerve versus the Bucks makes much more sense because Ospreay and Swerve have that background, the relationship between each other, and the
Mm-hmm.
mentorship that Swerve had with Ospreay. And so it just works a lot better in storyline. They already have a great deal of respect, not begrudging respect, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think you could justify it, but I think it's easier in this case to justify Hangman and Swerve begrudgingly on the same team, or like kind of ad hoc same team, but not like an official tag team match, right? I think that's easier to
Right.
justify,
Mm-hmm.
rather than them facing one of the best tag teams of all time.
Right. And to put like to give the Bucks their glory, still to this day they are one of the best tag teams. Like I remember a year or so ago, people being, "Oh, the Bucks are not the old Bucks," and they're not the old Bucks, but they can still, be in a ring with the best of them, tell a great story, and tell a story unlike any other team can.
Right. Yeah, still one of the best ever to do it. I know, you can literally go back and watch their 2019, 2020, even their 2021 stuff, and they just move differently than they are able to now.
Mm-hmm.
But they have adapted expertly, and they still put on some of the best trios matches, some of the best tag team matches on Dynamite. Still one of the best in the world to do it when it comes to tag teams. But anyway, the next thing that happened was that Don Callis decided it was a good idea to interrupt Kazuchika Okada. So good on you, Don. Really extending that lifetime warranty, that life insurance that you got on yourself. Basically, you know, Renee Paquette, just one of the best ever AEW hires, by the way. I know we've said that before, but I'll always say it. She is asking Okada about whether he's ready for this version of Kenny Omega. And before he can say anything, Don Callis comes in and he's like, why are you in this match and not Kyle? Has Okada done better these past 6 months than Kyle Fletcher? That's an unfair standard. I haven't done better in my life than Kyle Fletcher has done in the past 6 months in the ring. So I don't know. That just seems like a high bar, Don. But anyway, why is Okada in this match and not Takeshita? And then he asked the same question about Takesha's last 6 months. So Okada basically like grabbed Callis by the wrist like a child, and Callis immediately like begged off, like ow ow. It was very funny, and the Don Callis were suddenly 5 inches off of the camera, and they come in, and Okada backs off a bit, but he calls him a bitch because of course he does. God bless you, Okada. And we move on from this segment, not thinking much of it, but we sure will think a lot more of it when we talk about it later. But yeah, and I mean, Kenny does make a good point later on. He's like, I've already beaten Takeshita, although he's 2-1, but whatever. He's beaten Takeshita, and he has, I think, beaten Fletcher? Question mark. I don't actually remember if he's beaten Fletcher or not. But He's beaten Takeshi at the very least, which is why he's not in there. I don't think Okada has beaten. Oh yes, Kenny Omega versus Kyle Fletcher did happen. That was October 18th, 2023. So a couple years ago, and Kenny obviously won because that's not the same Kyle Fletcher as we have in front of us. So he's beaten both of them, and he's like, that's why they're not in the match. And I was like, yeah, fair enough, Kenny. Anyway, we'll get to that later. Sad news next. Unless you have anything to say about that backstage segment.
No. I mean, I think it is what it was on face value and setting up for what happens later on.
For sure. Sad news next. Just the worst time for this to happen. I guess Commander is injured, like actually injured, and to cover that up, the Hurt Syndicate took him out. I guess he got hurt at a CMLL show over last weekend and didn't finish a match. Just the worst timing for this guy. He was on fire. I love seeing all of his matches. Best wishes to Commander. Hope he gets a speedy recovery and comes back into the ring when he feels ready, of course. Right before Arena Mexico. That's just fucking crushing. I don't know if that affected the results that we get later on, because the results we got later on with the match that he was supposed to be in kind of surprised me, but we'll see. All right. This segment was controversial for some people. Now, there are good reasons why you might think that a nationalistic, jingoistic kind of gimmick from MJF right now in this very moment in 2025 of June is maybe not the best idea. But I think ultimately what MJF is doing here is he's making fun of that proclivity by Americans to think that they're the best, no matter what, despite, all evidence to the contrary in many, many areas. And I think, he got jingoism basically booed. And I think that's a good thing personally. Some people think it's in bad taste. I think if he had made certain jokes about the political climate we live in, or deportation jokes or anything like that, I think then I would be more on the side of people saying this is in bad taste. As it stands, it was very generic. I'm an American, so I'm better than you kind of situation. And he got it booed and then he immediately ate shit. So I didn't see a problem with this, but I know some people online, of course, were like, oh, MJF is tone deaf as usual. And, what are they doing? Why are they doing this? Da, da, da. But anyway, I thought it was well handled. Mystico returned, took on Vanilla Baby, Blake Christian. Love him. Will defend him to the end of my days just because of that one video montage that he himself edited. And on like a fucking GarageBand or whatever. And Mystico was really good in here. Mystico was very good in this match. A high risk tope suicida that just went and went and went. Mystico just had such velocity, kind of Darby-esque, honestly. But Blake had some awesome moves too. Did a very, very precise springboard 450 splash. But eventually Mystico was able to make a comeback. Did a springboard crossbody and got a La Mystica, who knows who that could be named after. Which got him the submission victory. Did you have any thoughts about the Blake Christian match or anything else?
No, I mean, I think Mystico is obviously the one of the biggest names, if not the biggest name, in CMLL, and I think as we'll just talk about here in a second, I think the angle that you discussed with MJF, I think as much as MJF comes off as an asshole, I think he has some of the most respect in the business for people in the business. Right. But he has to do his shtick, right? He can't come off as a fan, but it would be hard pressed for me to believe that like MJF is going into this match with truly any arrogance whatsoever, right. Shoot arrogance.
Right, for sure. Yeah. I think that's absolutely correct. I know we all love to hate on MJF / cheer him, depending on what day of the week it is at this point. I mean, remember how over MJF getting into the Hurt Syndicate was at one point, with MJF just out and out getting cheered because everybody wanted him to get in so badly. But now that he's in, it does seem like more people are now booing him because he's gotten what he wanted and he's still being a prick. By the way, I should mention MJF's gear here. I did not notice this, but I really should have, because I grew up watching Montel when he was wrestling on SmackDown. But yeah, the young genius had a Montel kind of tracksuit on, much like when MVP was wrestling in WWE in the mid 2000s on SmackDown. So that was very cute. Liked that a lot. But yeah, so MJF congratulated him. The one line that really made me laugh, and I don't think they have it in the in the AEW results page, which is what I'm looking at, just to go behind the scenes. But I remember it. I don't know why you wouldn't put it in. It's such a funny line. But he's like, I have no interest in fight, or I don't know exactly what he said, but he's like, I'm way better than a washed up Sin Cara, or whatever he said. And that was great. That was just a little dig. It wasn't like a big deal. It wasn't like a big reference to the other place, but it was just enough of a nod that the fans were like, "Oh shit, he went there." But yeah, MJF talked himself up. He says he's looking forward to ripping that Dime Store mask off his stupid face. MJF provocatively dropped a giant American flag and red, white, and blue streamers.
Yeah.
And, it's obvious, I think, if you watch carefully, that MJF doesn't really give a shit about America. Obviously doesn't give a shit about America. He cares about Long Island, maybe. And himself first and foremost. But he just like almost immediately was like, yeah, all right, enough with that. I'm better than you. You know it. Oh, and then one part where Mystico basically said in Spanish that he said, fuck your mother, basically. And I just love MJF's reaction so much. He went over to MVP. He's like, what did he say? And then all of a sudden MJF screams, he what? And this is fucking funny. Just hilarious.
MJF, like, with no no exclusion, truly is just, he's a full package. Like, when he wrestles, it is always fantastic. People can complain that he doesn't wrestle often, whatever. Whenever he's on screen, he is one of the best. And I don't know how I know he was 30, very under 30 within the last 3 years, so I know he's just past 30, maybe 32 at this point. I think where he is right now, I can't imagine what MJF is going to be like as he even gets more experience and gets even more over. And the line was, I think, something along the lines of, "I'm not a sloppy Sin Cara," or "You're just a sloppy Sin Cara to me." I think is something along those lines.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, MJF, I think, with his mannerisms, his volume in the ring, like the way he talks, like these segments, just, they are MJF. And another callback, because I went and looked this up, because I knew MJF had done a match in Mexico, and I forgot who it was against. But it was while he was doing his the American title reign, when he renamed the international title to the American American title. He did the match in CMLL against Templario, while he was under kind of that gimmick. So it's like, this is kind of a callback to that, because the last time he was in Arena Mexico, he was, again, this super American machacho, like, kind of personality. So it makes sense to kind of dip your toe back into that. But now, being able to lose without it feeling bad in the grand scheme of things, being a champion in AEW, because I fully expect MJF to lose this match against Mystico next week in Mexico. Just because Mystico doesn't lose unless there's a huge reason to, and I don't think this quite falls under that because the crowd's going to go absolutely insane when Mystico pins MJF.
Yeah, I want to add on here that they've just added a new match for Grand Slam Mexico. It's the 4 million pesos high flying 4-way. Try saying that 5 times fast. Mascara Dorada, the new one, versus Ricochet versus Hologram. God damn, I'm so excited Hologram is back. And Leo Rush. That is going to be absolutely insane. And for those who are curious, 4 million pesos in American dollars, that's about 200,000. So they've actually had higher paying matches, I think, than this. Obviously, it's all kayfabe anyway. But yeah.
But it is 250,000 going to one person versus like 400,000 going to 4 people, which I think was the payout.
Oh yeah, you're right. It was like so it was like split up or something.
Yeah, I think the last time, because it was when Mark Briscoe and Mike Bailey, and
I was like, wait a second, what?
Yes, Bailey has joined AEW as All Elite and already won a match 3 months ago or whenever it was. Yeah, I think it was the 8-man match for $400,000. So I mean, 250 to one person. That's a pretty good improvement.
Yes,
and plus 4 million sounds
right.
huge. 4 million sounds huge.
For sure. But anyway, and they actually did have it. You ain't mystical to me, son. To me, you're still a sloppy Sin Cara. That's right.
Yeah.
So it was at the end. I thought he said it earlier on, so that's why I didn't see it. After that, we went into the Hurt Syndicate versus Bailey, of course. Speedball Mike Bailey, Kevin Knight, and Mascara Dorada. This was a great match. This was exactly what you thought it would be. Styles make matches kind of things. And, basically it started with, I think this was when I was just getting back, or no, I would already been back by now. But I was thinking about a previous week when we had a similar match. But, there was a lot of aerial attacks, of course, from the High Flyers and lots of really good shows of strength, especially from Bobby Lashley doing his, big suplexes. I think he did the Dominator at one point. The spear as well.
One thing Bobby Lashley did that was hilarious. I think it was like going right into an ad break, if I'm not mistaken. Mascara Dorada was tossed into the corner towards the Hurt Syndicate, and the ref was distracted on the other side of the ring. Bobby Lashley picked him up and just threw him over the ropes into the floor. And I'm like, damn, Bobby.
Yeah, I remember that part. That was very, very cool. Very, very good moment. It's, I've said before, I'm not Bobby's biggest fan, but I do appreciate what he brings to the Hurt Syndicate, and obviously he's cool as fuck, and he's the nice one, as he says on AEW. So I really appreciate him, and he always picks his spots very well whenever he shows out, shows his strength. So I think that's great stuff. Basically, eventually, Mike Bailey did the triangle moonsault. Dorada did the shooting star press. And then MVP interfered. He got Bailey's knee with a cane, which allowed MJF to capitalize, hitting quick, like, I don't know, kind of like kind of looked like Andrade's move, actually, a little bit, the El Idolo. But he did like the double arm hooked DDT. I guess he did a heat seeker after, but I don't remember that happening. I just remember him hitting the DDT, and then that was it. But and then the Hurt Syndicate continued attacking afterwards, trying to take off masks and stuff like that. Dorada had to cover his face, and Mystico, who was a little bit late, by the way, finally got in, and MJF forced MJF to tap out, which, I mean, in wrestling terms, makes me nervous. Usually, if the heel looks bad the week before, the heel's going to win. and I could see the Hurt Syndicate interfere to get MJF the win. But you're right that Mystico almost never loses, especially not in Arena Mexico. So I can't really see them do that. And like, let's not forget the last time that MJF went all fucking faux patriotic when they went to the UK, he lost, right?
Mhm.
He infamously lost to Ospreay, which was another tremendous match from the Young Genius. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm very curious. I think Mystico. I hope Mystico will win. I'm sure if he doesn't, the discourse will be absolutely rancid. But and I think MJF should lose. To be fair, or to be clear, I do
Mhm.
think that's the better finish to this. But yeah, that was the match. Anything else you want to say about the match or the post match stuff?
No, I mean, I think MJF has MJF'd his way into the Hurt Syndicate in the best way possible. Um, and I think that just kind of explains everything. He's there. He is still MJF, uh, but he's hamming it up just appropriately to match like the energy that you have off of Bobby and Shelton.
Yep, for sure. All right. The next thing was the Death Riders sending a message to Hangman. So we knew that Hangman. Oh, I forgot to mention. So the show started with Christopher Daniels showing up. Hell yeah, and basically saying to Hangman, "Look, you need friends. You can't take these guys on by yourself." Da 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 da. And so we cut to Hangman kind of taking his luggage and stuff and walking away, and then we see like a guy with a sweatshirt, a hoodie over, and he's kind of like looking the other way, and I'm like, oh no, that's Moxley, and it was Moxley. And then he calls over like some of the other Death Riders, and they start following Hangman. So we had a bit of a cliffhanger. So I was like, wait, that's weird. Like, why would we hear from Hangman? Wasn't he like attacked? Like, I know we didn't see it, but it was implied. And then yeah, Hangman, we forgot our answer. He was dragged to the ring. He was bound and gagged again, very kinky. Was thrown defenselessly into the ring, and then just like basically Moxley cut a promo on him, telling him that he had a month to step up and be what everybody thinks you are. And if you're not prepared to do that, then you should get the fuck out. Hangman headbutted Mox, and then immediately Death Riders just fucking, we're about to put a steel chair around his neck. But then the Ops came out, and that was Samoa Joe, Hobbs, and Shibata, of course. Still haven't seen Hook in a while. And the Death Riders retreated. I would too if Samoa Joe and Hobbs came at me, and Shibata. God, what a team! And Hangman basically said, "I've come too far and too close for them to be for that to be the best you've got. Because I would ride through death itself. Get it? Because Death Riders to take that world championship. And if I find even one of you tonight, I will take your head." So he didn't. Spoilers, didn't actually find anyone's heads. Didn't find anyone and take anybody's heads, which I was a little disappointed with. I thought this is Yuta's cue to get absolutely fucking smashed. But no, that didn't happen. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was the fallout, kind of in a way that we're leading to seeing just the depths that the Death Riders are still riding that aura, and obviously facing off against all of the faces, because they appeared earlier enabling the Bucks to fight or to kind of attack Ospreay and Swerve, and here they're going directly to Hangman. But Hangman is such a good guy that he can retire his best friend, and his best friend is still having his back, being Christopher Daniels. And yeah, this was just, I think, leading to, I think in hindsight, I know the Death Rider stuff is kind of, in some people's eyes, been ups and downs, mostly downs, but have been repaired, if you will. And while I kind of see that, I think looking back at this Death Rider story in the history books of wrestling, I think it's going to go down very favorably.
Yeah, for sure. I've liked their stuff a lot more over recent months, and I do I'm still not like super sold on Mox in the ring with his slower heel style, but him and Briscoe had a pretty good match. Him and Cope had a great match, and with death match to be clear.
Mhm.
And he's had some good stuff. I didn't think I thought the four-way was still pretty good or great. I mean, I know a lot of people didn't like the ending, but I thought that was good. And yeah, and his promos have been better. I feel like we're also getting some teases about where the Death Riders are going post Mox.
Mhm.
So yeah. All right, so next up, Anna Jay and Ty Mello versus Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. This was another solid tag team match, and we're actually just about at the end of the Dynamite portion of the show.
Yeah.
So just so everybody's aware, but this was kind of like the semi-main. This was another great women's tag, like I said. Ty hadn't been in the ring in 2 years, but you wouldn't really know it. I guess she's been training with some AEW wrestlers. I think if I remember correctly, she was teaming with or training with Yuka and Takeshita, but I could be wrong. But either way, her training has really paid off.
Mhm.
Megan Bayne, of course, the strong woman of the match. So she's doing the double clothesline. She's looking really impressive. Anna and Ty looked really good together in terms of their chemistry, and did a lot of good teamwork. Um, Ty did this like triple like pump kick and a kind of calf slicer submission on Bane, which looked really really good. So again, Ty was in great form, especially for someone who's been away for 2 years. Um, Eventually, Anna Jay hit a crossbody, and Penelope Ford hit the acai moonsault. So eat your heart out, Hangman Page. She got both Ty and Anna, and yeah, eventually the match came to a conclusion when Anna was able to hold Bane back, and Ty Mello was able to hit a Ty KO. The camera angle didn't make it look good, so I don't know if that was just like her or the camera or both or what, but it was fine. It was fine, and yeah, they got the 3 count, and they were able to escape the ring before they got the beat down. What did you think about this match?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a great showing for Anna Jay, the returning TJ tag team. Uh, Obviously, we're still heading towards, I think, an obvious direction of a women's tag team division as a whole, leading probably to a championship being added at some point in the near future, hopefully. I think the only thing that I would maybe criticize about this match would be it seems like the tag team between Megan and Penelope have definitely been positioned to just kind of, especially Penelope, is kind of there to take some falls for Megan, which is the point. But I kind of wish that I feel that at some point, like in kayfabe, Megan would be like, "You're the weak link. I need to replace you." Like,
Yeah,
that just seems like Megan already like within kayfabe. I guess I don't know the best way. Doesn't care to use Penelope as a weapon. That's kind of been some stick between them. So it's not like she's endeared to Penelope in that sense. But I think that Megan is a star. Maybe there's at some point she breaks it off with Penelope, not to like replace her, but to go the singles route again, which I think is great. Not that I'm already booking a women's tag team to break up, but it seems like something's gotta happen there to like make Megan not okay with losing as a tag team in this way. But I think that's kind of my only kind of criticism. But it's like obviously TJ was going to win this, I think, just because of the returning Ty Mello, and it was a great showing for them. Obviously, getting the win over Megan is a good thing. Anna Jay, I think, has improved greatly over the years. Like you said, Ty was as good as she ever was, if not better, I think, in this match than I've seen her previously. Not that she was bad before, but I feel like she definitely didn't lose her step. And that's crazy because you think like being away for, I think it was like almost 2 years. I think since her previous match, or well, I shouldn't
Right.
say previous match. Previous match in AEW, she did have a match in I think it was Stardom, a few months ago. Her like official return to ring. But yeah, I mean, she definitely didn't lose anything in that timeout, which is always great to see.
Great. Yeah, so I mean I hear what you're saying. I think at some point they are going to give that kind of more, like more of a depth or story to it where Megan's getting frustrated and either Penelope steps up or something else happens.
Mm-hmm.
Um I hope that they do that because if not, obviously it's not a good sign for the tag team division if they're not going to do that basic kind of story.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Penelope could also win the favor back with with Megan just by them winning some more, obviously, maybe fighting some jobbers and having some squash matches, or maybe doing some backstage assaults or backing
Sure.
up Megan. Like there's ways to prove her worth even outside of the ring, despite being the person who takes the fall. I mean, they have won a couple of matches and they usually look dominant in the post match brawl. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not like loss, 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 but you're right that they're losing more than they're winning. So we'll see how that develops. But either
Yeah,
way,
and definitely
uh,
looking
the
forward to the development because the team's
yeah.
great. Like I like the women's tag teams that they have pieced together um, over these last like few months. I know like Harley's out right now, but I think Harley and Anna was really great together. And then obviously, now it's uh, TJ is back together with Harley being out of an injury, and seeing what Harley comes back to, I think will she be more singles? Will she find another tag team partner to play to get herself involved with? It seems like there's the eventual tag team between Tony Storm and um, Mina.
Thunder Rosa?
No,
Mina, yeah.
Mina down the line once Tony's no longer champion. Which, not to say I'm looking forward to that, but I think seeing the next evolution to Tony Storm, and seeing her help elevate other parts of the show rather than just the world title scene, I think will be very refreshing.
Yeah. I was thinking about Thunder Tits for a second.
Uh,
Anyway, Kenny Omega, Okada, the contract signing. Tony Schiavone introduced the new title, the Unified Championship. I don't know how I feel about that name, but I mean, it makes sense, and at least it's short. I think those are the two best things I can say about it, the AEW Unified Championship. Now, I have heard from the dirt sheets that this is going to be a top title, not necessarily a world title. I think some people might be getting carried away and thinking this is going to be a second world title and we're doing a brand split like some other bullshit, but I don't think there's any indicator of any of that. I just think this is going to be another top title in AEW, and so that way there's a clear mid card title, which is the TNT title, right? I think that's fine. But I'm not sure how I feel about that name. I would have done Intercontinental, but apparently WWE trademarked that in 2020 and filed a claim. So I don't know when that runs out. Maybe they just didn't want Fed heads to be like, oh, well, they're just ripping off WWE or whatever.
mhm.
So I don't know what the reasoning is. I wish they had picked a different name, but it's not a big deal. The belt looks beautiful, by the way.
Mhm.
It's got the one winged angel move on the left and the Rainmaker on the right. I love that they're basically dedicating a title to their rivalry. I mean, that's such a fucking cool idea. I don't think I've ever seen a company do that, like ever. So that's so cool and really shows like the care that they have towards their own wrestlers. I mean,
Mhm.
Kenny and Okada are some of the best ever, but still.
I mean, I think you can directly tie a line back to the creation of AEW to this rivalry, um, like without making any real jumps of just the way that this rivalry changed the face of like current modern wrestling. And obviously now this is being unified between those two people in AEW on American soil. Just makes it worth and more meaningful than ever. And I think that's great. Yeah, like you said, it's showing the history. It's honoring the history of wrestling without needing to honor just the company, if you know what I mean.
Right.
If you're following what I'm putting down, in AEW, wrestling history is AEW history.
Yes, for sure. I'm picking up what you're putting down, unlike some other companies. Yeah, and they also played a video package for all four of their original matches. I should say,
Yeah.
those are, I mean, legendary matches for a good reason. Go watch them if you can. And I watched them for the first time, I want to say last year or the year before. Recently, definitely wasn't live. I wasn't watching wrestling at the time in 2017, 2018. I didn't start till 2020, well after their quadrilogy was already over, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, go watch those matches. Incredible matches. Um, Omega basically says, 7 years to the day, almost to the day we had our last match. Let's leave it all in the ring. One final time for everything. So it rhymes, must be true. And then Don Callis got in. Omega basically told him to fuck off. He says, "You're not going to ruin this match. I know all your tricks." And then suddenly, Don said, "You don't know all of them," and Okada attacked from behind. He used a baton to target right in Omega's diverticulitis, basically, and did a elbow drop to him as he was on the gurney, and then basically Omega had a blood packet thing near him, so coughed up a bunch of blood. And Callis and Okada got the fuck out of there. And yeah, that's how we ended things. It was played very straight laced, very serious. I enjoyed it. I think, as somebody else has pointed out, this is just a storyline way to keep Kenny in bubble wrap until they have their match. That way, they ensure the match happens. Because how many fucking tickets did they sell since that match has been announced specifically? Over 1,000.
Yeah,
So I'm just gonna take my victory lap on that one.
Yeah, last I heard, it was at least 50. Well, I mean, you can say there were 1,500 tickets sold between the match announcement and I think this week. It's probably going to go up more since then. But yeah, I mean, this is the match. Like like I said, this is the rivalry that arguably laid the deeper foundation for AEW's creation. And these two can't go like they used to, but I think they are going to give this everything that they can. Like, it's going to be a truly amazing match, and on American soil for the first time, it's going to be something to watch.
Now, here's my question to wrap up the Dynamite portion. Do you think that this will main event? Or do you think we're going to get Hangman versus Moxley for the main event? Or even Tony versus Mercedes, although I don't think that will happen.
Sadly, I don't think it's Tony and Mercedes. As much as I want there to be a women's main event, I want it to be, I think, when it feels the most appropriate to have that first women's main event. And I thought at the time it would have made more sense for that to be the Hollywood ending. We can have that discussion in another podcast in retrospect. I think the decision was right. My guess is I think we will get a women's main event when it is the time. I don't think it's this time. What do we get as the main event at All In? Wrestling trope leads me to believe it will be Hangman and Moxley.
I wonder if they open on Omega Okada. I really wonder if they do that.
That would be Tony Khan recipe. It would either be that or leading off with the
The Bucks.
Bucks
Yeah.
match.
Yes.
It's those two. It's one of those two opening, and then the other one I think being second main, or
Yes. I
you know,
think you're right.
and let the it feels stereotypical, but at this point, the women having the third from the end match, feels appropriate, because otherwise you sandwich the women's match between two killer matches that are going to happen, and there's no combination of that where people won't complain.
Yeah.
And my guess is it's going to be a pattern of the women's match, or I should say Tony versus Mercedes, being that third from the end at Y'all In, followed by, my gut says then it's going to be Kenny Okada, and then Hangman Mox.
Right.
Because I think the tag team leading off is not championship. It's top names to start a hot night, and
Right.
that's kind of like the Tony Khan recipe for a
I think
leadoff
it will be
match.
that tag match because there's no belt involved. I think they are going to do. Yeah, I think the more and more I think about it, Okada Omega as the semi-main, Hanger Mox as the main, and yeah, I know it sucks. I know some fans are going to be very upset the women are not main eventing again, and they're going to be like, well, if not now, when? Well, when you're not up against a storyline that is wrapping up after a year for the men, and a match that's 7 years in the making between two of the best wrestlers of all time, not just men's wrestlers, but wrestlers of all time. Like, it sucks, but it is a huge match. Tony versus Mercedes. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't feel like it's bigger than the other two. And I know that's going to ruffle some people's feathers, but I think it just makes the most sense for that to not main event. Especially since I'm pretty confident Mercedes is going to win, but maybe I'm wrong.
I think Tony's going to win. I think Mercedes is going to have her first big AEW loss at Y'all In, and that will.
Oh, she's definitely have enough belts to make up for it at this point, especially after Arena Mexico this week.
Yeah. That call seems a little odd to me. Because on one hand, I'm sure CMLL would love to put a belt on Mercedes, because it means she has to return at least one more time. But yeah, I don't know if we need Mercedes 6 belts. But at the same time, whatever. It's good fun. It's wrestling. And that makes Tony's win even stronger, right? If she beats Mercedes 6 belts. I don't think, I think Tony's gonna win. And I think it's gonna start the down spiral. I'm really curious what the all out fallout of that will be. Could we see, because obviously that's in Toronto, do we turn around and see just Mercedes start slowly bleeding these belts off, so that she can have a turnaround for All In next year, where she'll probably win the world title then? That would probably be my feelings on that kind of timeline.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to Collision. So Kyle Fletcher versus Anthony Bowens with Adam Cole on commentary. I think we can stop having Adam Cole on commentary. I'm not saying he's terrible, but I just don't need him. He's not adding much. All right. Look, we got to have a conversation about Anthony Bowens. I know this is like a meme to say that we gotta talk about such and such. Well, we got to talk about Anthony Bowens. Look, I really like him as a person. I think he's very affable. I love his Pride of Pro Wrestling gimmick. Love his Jane's Addiction entrance. And some of the cool, unique moves that he pulls off during this match and any of his matches are genuinely really good. And they get me to sit up and at attention and look. I just don't care for this 5-2 player gimmick. I've given it about a month or so at this point. I just don't think this is really working. I think he should ditch it and just be the Pride of Pro Wrestling. I don't think the 5-2 player stuff is connecting with the fans. They're still all chanting Scissor Me Daddy, which was most popular 2 years ago. So I think he's got to pivot at this point. He's also not really doing any better than a 3.75. I mean, and this was against Kyle Fletcher, one of the best in the company, I would say at this point. I'm not saying like Bowen shouldn't get a push anymore or whatever, but I am saying like we need to rethink this gimmick and we need to rethink like how Bowens is wrestling, and also get Billy Gunn away from him. Not that I hate Billy Gunn, but I just don't think it's doing anything for his act. I mean, I guess it is getting the "Scissor Me Daddy" thing, but that's like a 2-year-old like chant at this. Like that chant can get up and walk at this point. Like we got to move on. It's dead weight. And again, nothing against Billy Gunn. He's done a lot of great stuff for the business and some not great stuff if you go back to the Attitude Era. But and I think even in TNA, geez. But I appreciate what he's done for Bowens, but I think he's got to go. Bowens has got to rethink this 5-tool player. And if Kyle Fletcher couldn't even get a 4-star match out of him, I don't know. We need to rethink what we're doing here. It is very weird that I would have rather see this be a Max Caster versus Kyle Fletcher squash match than that's my bar right now. Is like, would I rather see Max Caster in this match or Bowens? And 9 times out of 10, I'd rather see Max Caster, and that's crazy because I don't like Max Caster as a person. I think he's an edgelord who like has tweeted some really really weird shit. I know he's also gone through some personal stuff, but that doesn't really excuse it. Go seek help, my dude. You know what I mean? But in the ring, I mean, his gimmick's sensational. He's doing a great job. I literally just signed a petition so that AEW would acknowledge him as the best in the world. I ain't doing that for Bowens. That's all I'm saying. So look, I love Bowens, but the 5-tool player thing, it's not it. I know he was a former baseball player or whatever, but nobody cares about that, dude. You're a wrestler now. I think you should just embrace that. You're the pride of pro wrestling. It's literally Pride Month, dude. Like, let's just embrace that and move on from this 5-tool player stuff. I'm not saying ditch the entrance or even ditch the crop top gimmick. I think that's cool too. But anyway, yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts on any of this. I just wanted to open this up with a conversation about Bowens because that's kind of where I'm at with him at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly agree with you. I think where I would go would be a frustration angle of Bowens losing, and I think finding his way back to Max and healing it up again with him as a tag team, maybe turning on Billy Gunn so that you do get that distance. I think Billy Gunn being around Bowens right now is a really weird, good and bad situation where I think you would get less of a reaction for Bowens if Billy wasn't there, and that might look worse, if you know what I mean. Like, no one cares about Bowens, and I'm not saying that would happen, but Bowens is like a very good hand, and he's like precise, but the like you said, the 5-player stuff isn't quite hitting, I think, with anyone. The pride of pro wrestling, I think, is a good tagline. Obviously, that's I am not of that group. So I don't want to speak for anyone in the LGBTQ to TQ plus community, because the representation is needed. But at the same time, like, I think he needs something a little bit more edgy or something more interesting, because I don't know, him as a face solo isn't really doing it for me, and I think pairing him back up with Max, even for just a little while, might bring some good for him. Any thoughts about bringing those two back together?
I was thinking about this the other day. Sorry, I was muted and I did not touch the top of my microphone like I thought I did. I think it's an interesting idea. I think you could have Max lose over and over again, Bowens lose over and over again, and then eventually go back to the roots, be a heel tag team, say like melt some scissors in the ring, kick Billy Gunn's ass, like do whatever they got to do to get some fucking heat back on them and come back. I know it seems counterproductive because they just broke up, but honestly, I kind of do think that they needed to be a tag team. I feel bad about this because I was rallying for that. I was one of the people. I was rallying for them to break up and be like, no, enough with this. This is stupid. I think what they really should have done was turn on Billy Gunn. They should have turned on the fans. They should have turned on everyone and had one more run as a tag team as heels. But instead, they broke up, and now Max Caster has an excellent gimmick, and Bowens has a so-so gimmick. And I am LGBT, by the way, so I will say for myself that Bowens ain't doing it for me. Not with the specifically with the queer elements. Those are great. Those are awesome. Don't stop doing that. And representation is important. But some of his shit is not connecting. Anyway, that's all to say that Kyle Fletcher had a match with Anthony Bowens with Adam Cole on commentary. Again, Bowens did some really cool moves. He got some good drop kicks, a fallaway slam. Kyle Fletcher hit him with a huge big boot and a devastating DDT from the turnbuckles. Eventually, Fletcher hit the brainbuster and got the win. And it was pretty much exactly what I thought it would be, a 3.75 with Fletcher winning. So ironically, there's not actually a lot to talk about, but in the background, there's a lot for me to say about Bowens.
Right.
Still like the guy, but I do think he needs to turn on Billy, turn on the fans. I don't know how you do that. I'm not saying do the whole fucking, you guys turned on me before I turned on you shtick. It's the people. Like, please don't do that. But like, I don't know. I think you could do a slow tease of him turning heel and getting back with Max over the course of the year, and then have them come back for one more heel run and just see what happens from there. Because Bowens is better in ring, but Max is better like out of the ring. Like, he has a better, like, he's more charismatic. I can't believe I'm saying this, but he's more charismatic, especially when he's a goofy shit-eating heel.
Yeah.
I just enjoy his matches so much and his shtick. And like, even the backstage segments where Max was like running away from the camera guy and didn't want to talk to them about how he just lost. And like every week he ran a little bit faster and talked a little bit less. It was fantastic. So anyway, Max Caster, you're the best wrestler alive. That's what I'm saying. FTR come in. The Spanish commentary legend came in, Carlos Cabrera. And he was like doing like this big introduction for like, a CMLL star. And like, for a split second, I'm like, who the hell is this? Like, this guy, he's not this guy. Carlos Cabrera is making a big deal about whoever this is. And I thought maybe it was going to be Blue Panther or I don't know, Blue Panther. And because I don't know a lot about CMLL. And for a split second, when he said Atlantis, I thought he said Andrade. And I was like, what?
He's back. He's back.
But I was like, what the fuck is it? Because he was just in the Money in the Bank match. But anyway, so they, of course, he called Atlantis and Atlantis Jr. living legends, right? Or at least Atlantis. So that's how you knew FTR were going to come out. And God, I fucking love that. I've said this week after week, but I love this Dax gimmick of he'll ask a question of a luchador or anybody, not just luchadors, anybody, and he'll immediately take the mic back before they can really respond. It pops me every time. I love it. Adam Cole rushed into the ring to prevent FTR from attacking Atlanta Senior and Junior. The Don Callis members then arrived, and then Bandito and Templario came in, and then basically we're gonna get a 12-man tag, and we got. I'm gonna take a deep sigh, take a deep breath. We got another Don Callis family main event. Look, I don't mind the Don Callis family. I wish we had given the spot to Aminata and Tekla. They had a great match. I was really invested. As soon as that Don Callis family match happened, I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I've seen this like 5 different times. And I know it's not the exact same match, but I just didn't need this as the main event. It could have easily opened, and you could have had something else, conclude the show. Not Fletcher versus Bowens, but Tekla versus Aminata, for example. Anyway, yeah, there's going to be a huge 12-man tag, which I'm fine with. It has some luchadors in it. It has a lot of great talent. It'll be fun. Arena Mexico will be loud. Justin, what'd you think about this segment?
Dax is great. These legend killers gimmick, or the Living Legends Killers, I guess is the full thing,
Right.
of for FTR. I mean, I mentioned earlier the Bucks are the greatest tag team, and in the same breath, I could say FTR is the greatest tag team, which is exactly why anytime we've dipped, the cup in the well of FTR versus the Young Bucks, it never disappoints. No matter how many times you see it, those two teams they get each other, and they get wrestling, they get everything just between these two teams. But this segment in particular, FTR and Dax's gimmick, like you mentioned with the microphone and pulling it away, they are so good at being just shit person heels, and just it's fun. This is going to be a great match. Mexico's going to go wild when whatever the result here is going to be. And FTR are just going to continue being, some of the best out there. And it's just going to be, it's matches like this that I'm going to, not to compare companies, but the other recent American versus Luchador Company event, where they had a match in the same kind of vein of, people facing people and in a big group match, and it was fun. And I think like matches like these are the kind of matches that you can like put in front of someone and be like, here's Clash of Styles, here's good fun wrestling, and that audience is just gonna go wild for whatever they're gonna do down there.
Great. So Bill and Brian Keith had a backstage segment. That was well said, by the way. I just didn't have a lot to add. But yeah, Big Bill, Brian Keith have some new challengers. It's the fucking Workhorsemen. Love seeing the Workhorsemen. Very excited. JD Drake and Anthony Henry have just had terrible luck getting injured right after each other. Basically, the private party kind of situation, or top flight situation.
Mm-hmm.
But they're finally back. These guys are great. Watch their matches in TPW on the Indies. They've had some really great matches, so go check them out. This will be a great match. Julia Hart versus Toni Storm, with Mercedes on commentary eating some less well done steak? ? This match was pretty good, but it didn't get enough time for me. I don't know how you feel, but like I felt like this could have gone longer. But yeah, Sky Blue got thrown out. Storm did a lot of. I'm a sucker for a good German suplex, so that's already a quarter of a rating for me, quarter of a star. But utilizing her powerful German suplexes, got off a hip attack. Julio did some more tarantulas and also did a moonsault, a couple moonsaults. And then Storm eventually countered into a small package. I don't mind it. It's just one. I think it's the only surprise roll-up victory in the whole entire 4-hour show. If this was another company, I think this would have been the 10th one. And I know that because I watched Simon Miller.
They'd have to have 10 matches.
That's true. That's a good point. Yep. I was thinking about like a 4-hour Raw, but yes, you're right. But even then, they probably wouldn't have 10 matches. Anyway, this was a good match. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it was bad or anything. It just kind of felt disposable. I felt like Julia should have gotten more time. Again, get rid of the Don Callis family main event. I like the Don Callis family, but they're all over the show. They're everywhere you look, around every corner. It just felt unnecessary when you could have just given the women more time. But whatever, it's not a huge deal. It's just a little. It's a point of contention, but it's not a huge one. Did you have any thoughts about this match?
No, it was good. I liked the early angle, the brutality at the start of the match between Julia and Sky. They are great. They are good together. I think seeing Julia improve, I think I have a hard time, and I think I see this around online a lot of like, X person is good, they should get pushed, and it's like, yeah, but like, who do you put over? Like, who do you put them over? And like Julia, I feel is like in a really hard position where I think she's like good, but she's also still like mid-20s. Like, and I'm not like dissing her age, but it's like she has such a climb ahead of her that like we can like let these people build and gain experience and become like the best version of themselves without needing to like push them to the moon too early. Because I feel like once you're being pushed up and you're like world champion, it's like it always feels like, okay, well, where do you go from there? And then you're kind of like, you get the meandering kind of mid-title scene rotation kind of feuds in like a cycle, where I feel like with people like Julia and Sky Blue both, they're like really solid right now. But like if they just get honed a little bit more, and when the time's right, really strike them with a push, it can be otherworldly. So it's like I feel like Julia is in a really great position. Obviously, having TV matches against her world champion is a great position to be in, even if she loses. So yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like that's where I am right now with a lot of AEW has a lot of young talent, that you'll see people like, oh, XYZ need a push because they're so good. And it's like, they have 10 years left in their career. Like, let's make sure that, we're putting on like the best show, for the steps rather than completely diving when, something looks good or is popular. Because those perceptions can change really quickly. And I think that's arguably what happened with like the first acclaimed tag team run, championship run, where it was like, all right, it felt right because people pushed for it, but then it happened and it wasn't really well thought out. I'd rather it be delayed a little bit and like really thought out of a push and run than like just completely diving on the grenade and saying, yep, we'll put the titles on them.
Yep. I think that Julia does have, places to go in terms of being a better athlete and being a better wrestler. I do think some of the response to her online is unnecessary. She still comes off as really well composed. Her in-ring still looks solid to me. I think people are overhyping certain performances here and there as bad or not up to the standards. I think also one of the only ways at this point in AEW that you can get better is just having more reps on TV. So we'll see what happens. I want Julia and Sky to form, I've already said this before, but form a faction with Tekla and get some titles on them. I think that'd be good. I think Julia working more indies would be great. But of course, you always risk injury if that's the case. So anyway, so yeah, let's move on to the next segment. And I almost forgot. Oh my God, post-match stuff. Monet kind of I don't know, sniffed up Tony, and Tony was like groveling and begging, and there was a lot of certain kinds of tension going on here between Storm and Monet, and definitely did something for some people, not named me. But yeah, it was good stuff. Mina eventually interrupted to protect Storm since Monet started attacking. After taking a whiff of the AEW Women's World Champion. And yeah, next segment was Ricochet. He's recruiting people. Wasn't impressed with Blake Christian or Lee Johnson, which was rude. He called them play make believe Ricochet. So that wasn't very nice. After that, we got a nice return, kind of a nice surprise. Mixed trios match. I don't know if you want to count this as a women's match, but it involved a woman at the very least. MXM Collection and Taya versus Mark Briscoe, Tomohiro Ishii, and Willow. So just Big Tom out of nowhere, Willow out of nowhere. MXM are back. That was the return I was talking about. This was fun. This was a really fun match. This was a pretty good match, but in a different way. This was pretty short, but it felt really, really fun.
Yeah, I mean, this was the AEW special. This is
yes.
a match with people that are over, just to have a barn brawl, a barn burner of a match. Get out there, have some fun, get the crowd moving, and MXM and Taya are a conglomeration of one insanity, where the other side is a conglomeration of a different insanity. And I'm never gonna be sad to see Ishii on my TV.
Yeah, completely agree. It was great to see Willow again, and we'll talk more about stuff with Willow in just a second, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, gut wrench powerbomb from Willow. Pretty much the victory after that. Haven't seen Ty in a long time, so cool to see her back. Not much to say about this match. Moving on, Wheeler Yuta. So Chris Statlander was cutting a promo, and Wheeler kind of comes out of nowhere with Marina behind. And Chris is basically saying, I tried, I'm done trying to reconnect with Willow, whatever. Why isn't the person I am right now good enough for anyone? She's basically moping. And Yuta says, I know it's been tough, but forget about her. Forget about what other people think about you. Make your own choices. Which, coming from brainwashed Yuta is very fucking funny, but obviously that's the point, right? That's the narrative irony there. I already thought maybe they were teasing Statlander joining the Death Riders. I wonder if that happens, or it's a double turn and Stat protects Willow against the Death Riders, and that leads for them to tag back up and they get involved in the tag division. I don't know. I really don't know where this is going, but I'm excited. I would love a more focused heel version of Statlander that actually makes sense. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the big, I guess, narrative that no one's talking about with this angle is Orange Cassidy goes away, has an injury, leaves AEW TV, and all of the best friends turn evil. Was Orange Cassidy the one just holding their sanity together over time?
Which is so fun.
And, obviously Yuta left early, right? Chuck Taylor had his injury and needing to retire from in-ring performance. And then you just have these, turns. Chris Statlander kind of goes back, has been teetering between heel and face, fighting probably with herself. And then, like I said, was Orange Cassidy this just beacon of goodness that was just pulsating just enough for his friends to keep their minds in a good place? And he goes away, and he's gonna come back to, I guess, having Mark Briscoe and Ishii as conglomerators, but the best friends are now all heels pretty much.
Yeah, it's pretty sad what's happened. So yeah, it's a bummer. I wish Orange was there, but he apparently tore something in his pec, so he'll be out for quite a while. If Cody Rhodes was any indicator. But yeah, I'm very curious where this all goes. The next match was a great match. Bandito versus Mortos. Love that we got this on a fucking not random, but just basically got this out of nowhere. Bandito hit this suicide dive. Mortos hit the suicide dive, I mean. And then Mortos, of course, was healing it up, trying to get Bandito's mask off. He did this awesome lung blower, and eventually it finished with this moonsault fall away slam, AEW calls it. But it just looked awesome, whatever the fuck it was. He barely was able to do it. But this was a great match. Very physical, very fast at times. Just a really impressive match in general for both of these guys. So I really enjoyed it. Did you have any particular thoughts you wanted to share on it before we move on?
No, I mean, these are, again, the talent in AEW is insane. Bandito is crazy. Beast Mortos, if there was a spare title sitting around on the waist of, I don't know, an Adam Cole, I would put that on Beast Mortos right now, but I don't have that power.
Right.
But but I think Beast Mortos deserves so many flowers that I hope he gets directly in terms of reward one day.
Yes, I agree. I wish I wish you also had that power. Thank goodness Adam Cole doesn't randomly have just a particular belt on him that Mordos could take. I think Mordo should should sue him for it personally. I think Frank should really get in there, make the
Yeah.
courts do his work. Um, Mercedes basically got Zeuxis to accept her challenge. Uh, there wasn't much here. Zeuxis basically laid her out, and she's gonna lose next week. Sorry, Zeuxis. Hangman, this was one of the best segments of Collision, easily. So Hangman was gonna go check on Ospreay, but got interrupted by Renee Paquette and then by the Young Bucks. And Hangman basically said, "Fuck off! Like, stay out of my business. Stay out of Ospreay's business." Big pause. Big pause. And stay out of Swerve's business. And he says, if I do burn a house down, it'll be because I've trapped both of you inside of it, which is fucking awesome. So this was some character growth. Prince Nana was kind of eavesdropping behind the medical room door, and Nana asked Swerve, "Boss, did you hear all that?" And Swerve said every word. So we'll fucking see. We will fucking see what happens. I mean, it seems like they're all going to team up. It seems like Ospreay and Swerve are going to take care of the Bucks. I think Willow's going to take care of Marina. I don't know who's going to take care of Claudio. Maybe a returning Jay White will take care of Yuta. And shit, I don't know where we go from there, but that just pretty much leaves Moxley. Gabe Kidd's already gone back to NJPW. I don't even know why they mentioned him on this episode, unless he shows up for All In. But I doubt it. Yeah, Justin, and any thoughts on this incredible but very short segment? This was basically our follow up to earlier.
Right. Yeah. These are our men's storyline, finally getting the crossover, right? Like at the end being like, all right, we have Ospreay trying to convince Swerve to team up. Ospreay takes the bull from Swerve. That like cements like their connection, I think. At least it appeared so. This segment then kind of allows for clarification for Swerve. The Hangman is at least not completely resentful, like on like a deeper level against him. And obviously he wasn't at like the Bucks didn't do anything that he asked them to do directly.
Right.
I'll put it that way.
For sure.
And then it was also shot really well. I think the being in front of the room, that interaction happens, and then fall back into the medical room where it goes to Swerve and Nana. Really was just like a great, well produced segment. And yeah, I think what we're gonna see is, like we mentioned earlier, I do think the more I think about it, then it makes sense that the night leads off with the Bucks match against Swerve and Ospreay. My guess is they will come back at the end to thwart whatever the Death Riders are going to do to secure Mox the title. And that's why I think at the end of the night, Hangman's going to walk away with the title. Otherwise, AEW is just dead to me. Because that's the only outcome that could possibly save the company. Sarcasm to be noted.
That's good. I was like, whoa, what the fuck?
It's like, if Hangman doesn't win, I guess we got to burn everything down.
Hey, it would be in the spirit of Hangman, right? All right. Well, let's start wrapping this up. Tekla versus Queen Aminata, the real main event in my heart. Now, some people were upset with this match. They didn't like that Queen got so much offense. I'm of the complete opposite opinion. Queen should be getting all this offense. She's been in the company for a while now. Tekla's the newcomer. Tekla's not used to maybe the more American style yet. She's still getting used to national television. And Aminata just towers over her. She's a big, strong lady. So, and again, to quote Aminata herself, in her country, they step on spiders. So, I thought this was fine. Tekla basically danced around Aminata throughout most of the match. using her agility and kind of her weird movements to get the competitive edge. But Aminata just kept fucking knocking her out, overpowering her, sharp strikes, and just did this amazing headbutt that looked really, really good. Aminata looked awesome. This kick that to the ropes that looked great too. But Tekla just kept coming back over and over again, kicking out. Got Aminata with a bunch of holds. She got a leg scissor submission. She got the tarantula. Eventually, she got the death trap, and that's what did it. But this was a great match, bordering on really great. If it's got another 5 minutes, I would have said this was probably the best match of Collision. But unfortunately, it didn't because we had to have the match that we're going to talk about next. But yeah, any particular things you want to highlight from this match that I haven't mentioned?
I mean, so I totally agree. I think the match was really good. I think Aminata is another one where I would put in the same boat as Julia, where it's like she is really good, but then again, I think she can only get better with time, and I think if you push people too quickly, that can like backfire in like a bad way, because it's really hard to get back goodwill that you've not goodwill is maybe not the right word, like heat, like positive heat. If you've once you like be like, oh, they sunk or swim, and they kind of sink a little bit, right? So I think like Queen Aminata is like one that I think she has like great fundamentals, is like one of the best women, like technical women's wrestlers on the roster that can actually work with, you know, a bunch of people. And I think the only other thing to mention is the controversy that I've seen people talk about at the end of the match, where it seemed like Aminata may have like not liked the ending, or was maybe she like kind of threw Tekla's arm back off after the match and kind of just like walked away instead of the usual kind of like roll out and kind of crawl away spot you usually do when you lose a match. So I think there was some questioning over real heat, shoot heat, possibly between the two, but I haven't seen any reports or anything like that. But
I think Aminata posted about how she had a red eye flight to catch.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. And the spotlight was on Tekla, and she tapped out, and she didn't like. I don't know. This is a nothing drama to me.
I agree.
Yeah.
It
is important to note. Yeah.
Yeah, it's what people were talking about, at least from what I saw. I looked at it, and it was like, whatever, you know.
Yeah, I thought it was a little weird, but I was like, whatever. Like, you know, she's got places to be. It was just, look, it was a submission. She tapped out,
true.
So she wasn't in too much pain. There's no reason she couldn't walk away. It's not like she got back up, spat on her, and then left the ring, right? Like, I don't know. This is much ado about nothing. Next segment is Kip Sabian giving Nick Wayne a gift from Christian Cage. That gift is basically just a video package of how good Nick Wayne did. And I don't know. It's just continuing that storyline. There's not a lot here. But you know, just teasing that breakup more and more. Still wondering what we do with Cope and Christian. But we'll see. I'm pretty sure something will happen by All Out. For sure. Yeah. All right, main event time. I got almost nothing to say about this because I barely remember it. It was the Paragon, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong, and Daniel Garcia versus the DCF, Takeshita, Josh, Alexander, Hetchy, and Lance Archer. This match happens, and I wish it had been somewhere else on the card. That's pretty much what I have to say about it.
The only thing I will note on here is I like Hechicero on TV.
Yes.
And I think we're approaching diminishing returns on the Don Callis family in terms of adding new members. They're up to like 24 at this point.
Yeah, to 24, right?
I think by All In, they may just be half the roster. If you know the trajectory continues the way it has. And at that point, it's going to be a huge blood and guts match. You know, we may need like 6 rings all together under a giant cage to just be the whole roster against each other. where one half is the Don Callis family. Uh,
Yeah, here's what I have to say. Let's talk about the Don Callis family, not this match. Look, the match wasn't bad. I just don't care about it because it was like 11:56 and they took a fucking break, and I'm like, are you kidding me?
yeah.
Anyway, I love the Don Callis family. I think we should stick to a very core group of Takeshita, Fletcher, Josh Alexander, and Hetchy, and that's it. And Lance, I'm sorry, buddy. You can go have a tag team with Brian Cage elsewhere. RPG Vice, you can go elsewhere. And I like both those teams, but like just put them in the tag team division. Stop having them be around Don Callis family. Um, I don't know. Takeshita eventually hit the uh Takeshita hit a move, and then Alexander hit a move, and then they got the pinfall victory. So the bad guys won at the end. It was just whatever. I like the Don Callis family, but they're getting too big. Okada, but for anybody who's worried, Okada is not staying in the group. This is clearly a short-term thing they're doing to get more heat on Okada and more babyface noise for for Kenny, and that's
Mhm.
really it. And I don't think it's going to last very long. But that about does it. That's pretty much it for our 4-hour retrospective. Or not 4-hour retrospective, but our retrospective on the 4 hours. This is why I don't host and Adam does. So yeah, I hope everybody had a great week. We will be back next week, I believe, a regularly scheduled people. So it'll be Adam and myself. So you'll get back to us quarreling like old married couple. And we'll be talking about the 2.5-hour show, Arena Mexico. Now, a 2.5-hour show, I can deal with that. I think by 11:30, 11:15, I think I was tapped out. I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
But this was still a great show overall. I had a lot of fun, a lot of great matches. Please start splitting up the Don Callis family or do something else besides constantly putting them in matches. Or maybe it's just better if like Collision and Dynamite aren't right next to each other, because I think that was my biggest problem is like if they hadn't been right next to each other, I wouldn't have minded as much, right? Because I don't mind the Don Callis family in general or being on Collision. I just don't like them like monopolizing so much time.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
that'll do it.
Yeah. Just like a quick note. I would. Yeah. Everything you said, Don Callis family. I agree. I think. One thing is there was always the conversation of like, could Dynamite be longer? I think the answer is yes. I think AEW could easily get away with a 3-hour show. 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours. That could be true. 4 hours, definitely not. Not on weeknight. No. Like, not when you're not ready. I like the 4-hour pay-per-views. I don't like a 4-hour TV show.
Agreed. I did not like this. I didn't, and I love AEW and I love a 4-hour pay-per-view. I'm not one of those people who complain about it. I love it. It makes me feel like I got my money's worth, but I don't need this from Dynamite. And I hope they don't do this again for a long time. 2.5 hours is perfect. That is fine by me. 2.5 hours is great. So I'm looking forward to that. The Arena Mexico show looks really good. It's a really good card. You got Zeuxis versus Mercedes. You've got the 12-man tag. You've got the 10-man tag. You've got a couple other matches in there, like the 4 million pesos match and the MJF versus Mystico match. So it's looking awesome, and I'm looking forward to it. Unfortunately, we have to wait till next Wednesday, but that's what the indies are for. Or going back on the AEW YouTube channel where they're suddenly uploading a bunch of bangers. So go check those out.
Yep. Yeah, I was gonna call that out as well. Uploading a bunch of their classic matches, full match to YouTube. Go watch them.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. Well, Justin, thank you so much for joining me. And we will be back next week to talk about the Arena Mexico show. Hope everybody has a great night, great day, great whatever. Go away. Leave me alone. I'm just kidding. Thank you for listening.
Yep. Bye-bye.